Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is the historic 100th episode of Reanimated. It's going to be such a different kind of show. Actually, no, it's not.
No.
I shouldn't even set that precedent or set that expectation. This is just going to be our usual amazingly high level of professionalism that we bring to all of our shows. We've been doing it 100 times in a row, y'all. Well, a little more than 100, but because we've had some episodes that got lost along the way. But we don't speak of them other than as asides.
They're better that they're lost, though. Don't you agree?
It's probably mostly. Yeah. I think there were a couple of like good ones that we also whatever. They're gone now. Don't speak ill of the dead. So hey, welcome, 100th episode. I'm Stuart Tiffin. You're H.A. Conrad. What's up?
Nothing much. Enjoying life. Watching Walking Dead Season 4.
God, isn't it just wonderful?
I'm not going to bring up the season finale of Walking Dead Season 6.
We might have to a little bit.
Okay, we can do that, but we should be careful.
But yeah, for sure. I'm just like in a couple of areas, Carol related perhaps, because we're talking about episodes 13 and 14 from season 4 today, Alone and The Grove.
Yeah.
Which is a hard to forget episode. And,
it's pretty rough.
Yeah. And we'll be talking about some zombie news, and we're doing all of this because of our good old pal friends down there at Squarespace, the all-in-one platform that makes it easy to create your own professional website. You've got all kinds of tools, 24/7 customer support, create your first website without even needing to use a credit card. And you can use their merchandising and their metrics options to even run a small business or a large one, whatever.
Or a hobby.
Exactly. So, welcome to... We're recording this on April 10th, which is a significant date, even though this podcast probably will not see the light of day for a little while until after that. But it's significant at the time we're recording it because last week we had Season 6 finale, and this week, tonight, we have Fear the Walking Dead Season 2 premiere.
Mm-hmm.
And we are probably not going to review that as we did Season 1 on a week-to-week basis, right? We don't have a plan for that.
We don't, but we certainly could.
We certainly could, but I think this is going to be a longer season, so we might be signing ourselves up for quite a lot of, 16 more weeks or so
of Walking Dead. Well,
but that's, we could do that.
We could do the premiere at the very least, and then maybe take a retro look.
Sure.
And I think that may be the case, because if our Fear the Walking Dead experience last time taught me anything, it was that I think I would rather just binge watch it than watch it episode by episode.
If it taught me anything, it was that I'm going to enjoy 2/3 of season 2.
Yes.
Quite intensely, and then quite intensely dislike 33% of it.
Correct.
But we'll see. So, in the news, what do we got? Can I just mention that you sent me a link from Litigation Daily, and that I got a kick out of that just in itself?
Yes, because I'm that nerdy.
Okay, go on. What are these crazy New Jerseyans doing these days?
So these New Jerseyans, and apparently this is not the first time they have done this, but it looks like it's a few different individuals who maybe have set up some kind of a franchise or something like that. But 3 individuals, Philip Theodoro, Stephen Theodoro, and Anna Theodoro, are basically tried to register trademarks with the U.S. Patents Office to be able to sell T-shirts, but more importantly, to open a Walking Dead themed restaurant. And apparently they have done this in other cases, so this is not the first time. This is not their first rodeo. And they did this with the Islanders, apparently, and Donald Trump's "Make America Great" trademark. So, and the thing,
the worst, of course, is they tried to do it with a Beastie Boys song,
right? The "No Sleep Till Brooklyn." And the thing is if this got by Robert Kirkman, there's pretty much nothing else he could do about it because you have to defend your trademark. I am not a lawyer, so don't take my my word for it, but that is what I understand. And basically, Robert Kirkman is rightly so really angry about this. So he is definitely trying to put an end to this and an end to them making money on his intellectual property. And we'll see exactly what happens, but they definitely have a history of this kind of behavior, and it just seems totally exhausting to me that you would have to fight this. It just seems like it should just be shut down automatically, but apparently that is not so. Thoughts?
Yeah, I'm kind of glad that it doesn't just get shut down automatically in a way. I mean, I know that sounds bad because it just allows dirtbags like this a chance to get away with it. But at the same time, if the system automatically shut down creativity that maybe stepped a little too close to something that was trademarked or copyright, I don't know.
I don't
I like
know.
there to be a
There's
little gray in there. A little
the thing
gray.
is, there was that whole thing. I don't know if you saw this all at all, but so Chick-fil-A had a trademark that was they used on T-shirts and things like that called "Eat More Chicken," and
Hmm.
some dude up in Vermont had us just like had a thing that said "Eat More Kale," and Chick-fil-A actually filed against him. Where I don't know that you would ever confuse those two things, but apparently they said that this was something that was impeding there. And so I hear what you're saying, but I just feel like there's a lot of opportunists out there that are just making a lot more work. And in this case, Robert Kirkman has the money to fight this, but I guess my thing is that you have a lot of people, especially smaller creative endeavors and individual artists that may get into a lot of trouble and could perhaps, this is just my thought, could perhaps get into a very expensive legal battle and would have to give up because maybe the bigger shark eats them in this case, because it's pretty expensive to fight this kind of litigation.
Right.
So that's just my thought. I hear what you're saying, but I just think there's an enormous amount of gray area here that's kind of icky.
That's what. Okay. Bad gray. Not. I mean, yeah, I think it could go either way. I guess the milk
Chaotic
people
neutral,
didn't
chaotic.
protect. Yeah, I guess the milk people didn't protect got milk because that's obviously been done 100 ways to Friday.
Right.
So
But anyway, I just thought it was an interesting
true.
piece that came up, but I'm sure he will prevail.
He's got the chops.
Yep. And then the next item, I was very curious to see what you thought about this. This is a franchise just outside of Vegas that is training people to kill zombies. And the creator of this particular franchise, in an interview, and in the interview in this particular article, says he really does not get the zombie thing, but did this because it seemed like a good idea since it was so popular in popular culture. So did you get a chance to look at this?
Yeah, I looked through this article, and the most interesting thing about this article for me, which is from a CNBC like embedded reporter goes through zombie training school, is more the business side of it. Like
Yes.
how he persuaded a bunch of other veterans to come with him to Vegas and launch this startup essentially, and how it hasn't always been going so well, but they grossed 500 grand in sales in the first 6 months or 8 months that they've been open. But still, depending on how big his staff is, that's actually not a huge amount of money, depending on what their overhead is, and good luck to them. They're charging people $200 a head to go in and fight live zombie extras, I guess. I'm not sure. I didn't really get what ammunition or how they're doing that part of it. I think they're shooting projectiles at people, right?
And projectiles, but I think they're like soft projectiles.
Yeah, but not like Nerf.
No,
I
no,
feel like
no. But
they're
it's
using.
still so. Yeah, my thoughts as I was reading this was that somebody's gonna lose an eye at some point, but maybe I'm
Yeah,
wrong. I think it's an interesting idea. I think it's just more of the whole zombie room and get out of the room and that kind of thing. But it just seems to be on a much grander scale. And I
yeah,
agree with you. I think the big piece was to get this financed and to get other people to go in on this with him.
Yeah.
He did say he would never do this again had he to do it over again. So I think that's an interesting comment.
Obviously, it's a tough slog. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll still have to see if this business succeeds. And he's talking about these guys that he's persuaded to come with him, being like some of them are ex-Rangers, some of them have been other special forces. These are people who typically can get paid a lot of money to go into like insurance,
Mm-hmm.
kidnap and
And
ransom,
consulting and all that stuff.
yeah, consultants or Blackwater type stuff. You can do really well with that skill set. I mean, if you're savvy, and I don't know that this job is necessarily paying them those kinds of. I mean, also it's about what you want to do. Maybe you don't want to get shot at anymore in your life, and you'd rather just get shot at by reporters and tourists in Las Vegas. Less than lethal. Maybe that.
Right.
It's a decision you probably make in your.
Right. And I should mention that the name of this outfit is called Adventures Combat Ops. And my guess is that he basically, I think he's probably involved. They probably like have a buy-in for the company stock or something like that, and maybe that they're hoping for a bigger payout later on, which is why they're passing up this other stuff.
Yeah, potentially.
I don't know, but in any case, very interesting. And they seem to do a lot of corporate events and bachelor parties. So
Yeah, it makes sense. The price point for me is a little steep, $200 for I don't know how many hours that is, but it's definitely the based on what the reporter is posting photos of herself in her get up. It seems pretty comprehensive.
I mean, you can choose things like your ammo supply, the level of the power of your weaponry, and the amount of full body coverage you have. So there's like different price points in the packages. So it's really
Hmm.
it's a very well thought out plan. Like they've done their due diligence here, but yes, let's check back in a little later on to see how successful they are.
Yeah, and best of luck,
Mm-hmm.
ACO. So next up we've got. Oh yeah, I saw this I follow Chris Hardwick on Instagram, of course. So I saw his
His save the date. I just thought it was
his
funny,
save the dates
especially
go
given
out.
our. I know it's a little spoilery, but given our current subject matter and especially these episodes, I just thought it was kind of funny.
I will out myself and say I didn't get what scene he was referring to
Oh,
in his
I know
Instagram
exactly
feed.
which one it is, and it's not a
Well, I know
happy one.
now.
Oh,
Yeah, I know
okay,
now
okay.
because of the article that you linked to, but um, in comicbook.com, because there's a photo of him next to the Daryl and Beth photo. And so that's the scene that they're recreating him and his fiancee Lydia Hurst. Um, and apparently the save the dates went out on like planks of wood, and it's all like burned into it. Uh, so I don't know. It seems like he's really excited about getting married.
Yeah, I do like some of the Nerdist stuff, but some of the issues get a little too fanboy-y for me.
There was actually a really interesting article in the New York Times about Chris Hardwick last week, about kind of his empire, how his career has gone from singled out to like kind of bottoming out in his 20s, and then based on his reinvention of himself as a fanboy, essentially like starting Nerdist, doing his podcast, and then getting the gig on Talking Dead, and now he's got like another TV show called At Midnight, and he's still doing podcasts. Um, I think he might have another show coming out soon.
Yeah.
His empire has grown on the back of kind of just embracing what he was most interested in talking about.
No, and I
So,
totally like that, and I have like some of the interviews. Some of them just get a little too over for me.
mhm.
Like in terms of the ways that you're trying to interact with the creators of these things, it just and I
Well,
know that I'm definitely in the minority here. Like he is beloved, and I appreciate the things that he's done. It's just not always my cup of tea. That's all.
yes, and obviously on Talking Dead, he can't probably say anything bad about the show, and so he's not like a reliable host in a way of that.
Right, and it bothers me a little bit because you're not getting some of that criticism. But
He acknowledged
I
that though
know.
in the last Talking Dead, because there was some even during the Talking Dead talking about the season finale, there was apparently already so much backlash on Twitter, um, because of the cliffhanger that season ended with, that he brought it up to Kirkman. I forget who else. I think uh, Nicotero might have been there too. Certainly Negan, the guy playing Negan, is there. and Daryl, maybe I forget. But yeah, he's like, look, I know I work for the show and I work for the network, but he tried to like step outside of that a little bit and at least relate what he was seeing in terms of criticism on Twitter, which I thought I'd never seen that happen on Talking Dead before. So hopefully he still has his job next season.
Eh, I hope so. Again, I don't want to be, and I also should say that I am definitely not somebody that wants to tear somebody apart for their endeavors and their success, because I think that it's admirable what he has done.
Mm-hmm.
I just, from an enjoyability point of view, I don't always listen to Talking Dead or watch Talking Dead, because I find it just that message and that sort of
Yeah, it's a bit much.
that spin can be a little bit too much for me, because it feels disingenuous. And I agree with you. I hope he doesn't lose his job as well.
No,
And I actually thought that when I saw sort of the reaction.
he
So
really stayed on script.
yeah, he did.
Just what he did was at least acknowledge the fact that there was a lot of negativity
Right.
about that last scene, and it was Scott Gimple, not Nicotero. And Scott Gimple was wearing an X-wing tie, and I already tweeted about that how much I loved his tie because I'm a fanboy too.
I know. And I have a lot of fanboy friends, clearly, but it's
Yeah.
just my personal thing. So I'll have to just get over
Yeah.
it.
Honestly, when Talking Dead went from a 21-minute show to a 45-minute show, or a 39-minute show, to me that was kind of when I was less interested in watching it from start to finish because there's so much chaff and filler in there with their different subway quizzes and polls of the audience and all this garbage that a lot of it's not that worthwhile anymore. Or I mean, I still want to see the actors and hear their take on it. And whenever Yvette Nicole Brown comes on that show, who is from Community, do you know who she is, the actress?
Yes, I do.
She's like their super fan. She keeps a notebook.
Yep.
Every time she comes on Talking Dead, which has been like, I don't know, a dozen times now, she brings her notebook and refers to her notes. And she's just so enthusiastic about it. They like put webcams in her house to see her reacting to the TV show. It's kind of crazy. Anyway, enough about Talking Dead. Sorry, let's move
right.
on.
So next up, we have actually a lot of news items today, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Next up was there's an article in the Guardian. Yes, I know the source is sometimes questionable, but it was talking a lot about themed cruises, and this is something that's been I didn't really start hearing about it until maybe 3 years ago. I don't know about you. Had you heard of it
Never
before
heard
this?
of
I
this
sent.
before.
So there's been cruises had been losing like a lot of money, and there'd been a lot of some negative press just in terms of a lot of icky things that can happen on cruises. I think the perception that they are something that older individuals might go on. Also, the whole illness on cruises, which is something that makes me go, and not something I'd want to do.
Yeah.
And then just the general safety of cruise trips and some of their things, the ethics of how they deal with employees and things like that have given them definitely a bad rap. And so they had not been able to attract as many customers, especially in the younger market. So probably about definitely 3 years ago, but I think it had been going on longer. I started hearing about these themed cruises, usually related to bands or comedians or things like that. And then like Disney has always kind of done this, but these are the ones that this article is specifically talking about. It was like a Walking Dead themed cruise to the Bahamas. And then there's also, of course, Star Wars and that kind of thing. And the I don't know if you've ever seen it, but the Great British Bake Off.
I've seen the show.
Yeah, so there's a cruise, and so the whole gist of this is that they attract fans of these types of things. So you would have a better time on this cruise because activities related around this, and the people who are hopefully attending this cruise would have similar interests. And I actually have friends who went on a flogging Molly cruise, and that also had, I know, right? Which also had other bands like Rancid and things like that were on the same cruise. And Jonathan Coulton has done one before, which I don't know if you know who he is, but Definitely more of a nerdy themed cruise. And some of the activities and some of the things that they're doing on these, they seem really exciting. But I still don't know that it would make me go.
What, you wouldn't go on a cruise with Mary Berry between Cardiff and is it Leith?
Yes, I don't.
Can you imagine the monstrosities that she would be baking up for the?
I know. I know. I don't know. It's just. My thing about cruises is that the idea of being trapped on the water with a bunch of people just never seemed like a good idea to me.
All right,
So
well,
no matter what the theme is, I don't know that I could make myself do it.
I need to send you a tweet from Denai Guerrera, plays Michonne. I'm gonna put it in the show notes, but I'm sending it to you right there.
Okay.
This is a photo from this year's 2016 the Walker Stalker cruise. And in this picture, you've got Lawrence Gilliard Jr., who played Bob. I think that's Beth.
Yep, that's Beth.
McKinnon, I think her name is. There's Greg Nicotero, Chad Coleman. Not sure who the woman is in the middle and the guy next to her, but that other guy is, thank you, what's his name? He fell off the dumpster.
Oh, I don't remember his name.
And
Dumpster guy.
That's Christian, who plays Rosita, I'm pretty sure, on the back of the couch. There's Michonne. Is that Martinez next to Michonne?
I think it might be.
And then I'm not sure who that lady is with him. But holy crap, that's actually a lot of cast. I was like, oh, really? There's cast members on this cruise? And then I looked it up and was like, holy crap, there's a ton of them.
Yep.
And I don't know if this is like actually at sea or once they pulled into port, they all just came on for an evening and, did like a Comic-Con style.
Yeah, but either way, it is for people who are really into the show, I can see why this would be a massive attraction. And I guarantee that they're selling out whatever cruises these are. As they sell out every single thing they speak at Comic-Cons and things like that. So, still tempting, but I'm still like, no.
Well, yeah. Yeah. Cruises are kind of terrifying. But still.
Anyway, just an interesting thing. And, I do think, some of the things that they're talking about in terms of activities and things definitely would make it a better experience for people. I just can't make myself do this. And I'll have to tell you, the Meow Meow cruise sounds horrifying to me.
I'm sorry, what?
At the end of this article, this is after they talk about the Walker Stalker cruise. They talk about the Meow Meow cruise, which is for cat lovers, and it's cat-themed karaoke and cat-themed scavenger hunts.
They're encouraged to have T-shirts printed with photographs of their pets.
Yeah.
But can they bring cats?
No, they can't. That's the thing. That would be actually more worth it if people could walk around on the deck with their cats.
That's absurd. That's how many cats would jump overboard.
I know, you're right. Anyway.
The Atlantic.
This isn't necessarily zombie related, although it kind of is, because we've actually reviewed a couple of I think we reviewed, I forget the name of the podcast, and I know this is terrible, but the sort of this is a little different because they're talking about stories specifically, but basically this is an article talking about the rise of the horror podcast, and I have not yet listened to these, but this intrigued me. Laura and the Black Tapes. Have you listened to either of these podcasts?
No, I haven't. But yeah, I remember that we did cover that one, but not. And that one has since ended. But I think it's great that there are these narrative-driven horror podcasts out there. Right,
and I mean it's kind of cool because they're a little bit like ghost hunters, a couple of them in sort of the format. And, in Black Tapes, it follows a journalist as the journalist is exploring real different cases like seances, possessions, that kind of thing. And so that's kind of cool. I'd be curious, and it's storytelling. It's, myths and legends and that kind of thing. And apparently, just in terms of listenership, they're doing really, really well. So I think at some point in the future, we should explore one of these.
Okay. Be down with it.
Cool.
A lot of people wanted us to review that zombie one in entirety. All we did was, I think, the first couple of episodes.
Yeah, it wasn't... I thought it was very good, but it wasn't fully my thing. So...
Yeah, fair enough. Okay. But yeah, we'll revisit that. But for now, we need to plunge into episode 13.
Yeah.
Alone.
Yes.
alone, which is it's like a pretty upbeat episode thanks to previously mentioned Lawrence Gilliard Jr., who is the irrepressible Bob.
Mm-hmm.
Um, this episode definitely kind of concretes his ethos
True.
for this show, where he's just like, hey, you know what? I was in a bad place, and nothing compares to that.
Mm-hmm.
As long as I'm with other people. And so we get to see a little bit of his origin story, as it were, in the cold open.
We do, and it's interesting how they juxtapose this with a little bit of Daryl's experience later on,
Yeah,
right?
except I mean, Daryl's is much shorter. I don't think there's. I mean, he does run for an entire night and day, but yeah, I guess he's kind of just getting to Bob territory when
The
the next
Marauders
thing
find him.
happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. So wait, so I guess this is directed by Ernest Dickerson, written by Curtis Gwynn, and had 12.65 million viewers. And but Bob, the thing about Bob when he's by himself, and
What about Bob? Sorry.
what about Bob? The thing about Bob is he's so zen when he's by himself.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if this is just the like maybe if this was the direction he was given, like don't look sad, just kind of look like whatever, because that's kind of the vibe
Yeah,
I
you
get.
don't really get that he's downtrodden or anything.
It's and this carries through into when he meets up with Daryl and Glenn. He's just like, hey, I don't care who you are, I'll go with you, whatever, doesn't matter. Like that's literally where he's at, but it doesn't seem like a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
It almost makes me think like maybe you'd rather just kind of keep going the way you're going. But I guess on the fact that he's eager to join with other people makes you realize must mean that he doesn't really want to be by himself, even though he doesn't seem particularly perturbed about it.
Well, maybe it's good cover, and I do like some of the scenery. There's like, especially the one where he's lying on top of the trailer of the truck,
Mm-hmm.
and there's
Yeah.
just sort of a walker horde going around him, and he's just kind of chilling there. He could be meditating, I'm not sure. But you're right.
Or when he's just chugging cold medicine and inside like a mine shaft,
Yeah.
staring at a zombie 2 inches away from his face.
Yep,
Yeah.
he's still pretty chill.
But that I think that might be like medicated really more
Yeah,
than chill.
maybe.
Either way, it's a cool cold open. We kind of get to go back in time and see Daryl and Glenn meeting him.
And I like one of the things that I thought was really great in this episode was the fog walkers. So
Yeah.
you didn't like that?
Yeah. Well, I guess at a certain point it started to look like a little bit too much like TV set fog.
Maybe. I just like the idea of it, not necessarily the execution of
No,
the
it
fog.
was cool. It was cool. Like just hearing them and then they were suddenly coming out of the fog. Yeah.
Yep.
It was cool. And like Bob gets bit on the bandage. Again, like nothing could keep Bob down,
I know.
you know? And when we've seen zombies like chew through material like denim, it's a little odd that they can't chew through cotton and whatever bandage is made out of paper.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, whatever. Let's move on. Bob is irrepressible. Can't keep him down.
Yep. But you've got
So-
the weird dynamic between Bob, Sasha, and Maggie in deciding what to do.
Yeah, but there's also like right after that zombie fog attack, there's all laughing and flirting and
Yeah, totally. Like Sasha and
there's
Bob
such a
have something going on. There's definitely a bright point here.
yeah. But even Maggie's in on it. Like she's not totally glum. I mean, she's still on her find Glenn mission, but there's something that you can't I don't know deny about the levity that's going on there, despite their terrible situation. But that's not the only story we're looking at in this episode, because we're also following Beth and Daryl.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess Beth and Daryl are learning how to track, and she steps on a bear trap and then hurts her leg. So that sets us up for them having to hole up, which they do in like a cemetery house.
Yeah, like a little funeral
This-
parlor thing, whatever it is.
When when you look at the narrative of this and the rest of this season, maybe next season, which I think where Beth's story might pick up, I've been famously wrong about the timeline of these things before when I try to like say, oh yeah, we're not going to find out who killed Karen and David until like three episodes
Right.
next season. But so I don't think we catch up with Beth again until
The next
season
season.
5.
And I think you're
Yeah.
correct on that.
Right. Okay. So when you look at the narrative in the big picture, do you think the showrunners knew what they were doing with this big house and the car with the white cross? Because
I
when you go back and look at it, it doesn't make
doesn't make a lot of sense. No, you're right.
no,
And
right?
my initial thought when I saw this was that the house was like a trap, like a honeypot.
Right. That's exact. I think that's what they wanted us to think.
But it's not initially clear, and it's still weird how it all happens.
Because when I'm pretty sure by next season, there's no inkling that this is some kind of trap for that group of people to lure new recruits.
But it also feels like a really ineffective way to do so, right? So that's the thing that just always bothered me. But, you know.
It's very confusing.
But, you know, they're wandering in the house. There's actually supplies. There are more supplies than they've seen in a very long time. I mean, it must be awesome to drink cola and eat peanut butter. And for Daryl, I guess pig's feet. And then I think the purpose of this is to just show. I mean, Daryl seems like a hard ass all the time, and there's a lot of dialogue between him and Beth about whether people are still good, and I think it's just sort of like the minute they started having these conversations, I was just like, well, soon it's going to be proven that she's totally wrong.
Yeah. Or they were gonna have fall into a deep love affair.
Well,
which
that too,
it
because you
certainly
got that
certainly
vibe. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, every like when he walks into the kitchen holding her like they're stepping over the threshold.
Yeah, it was so
or-
clear that
yeah,
that
it's
was
like, oh, there's some imagery.
yep.
But yeah, that's kind of like taking their storyline through the finale when basically just this episode follows that story and the Maggie Sasha Bob story. And on their side of things, Sasha is like, I don't want to go to Terminus, and Maggie and Bob are like, well, that's probably where everybody's going, so we should go there. That's where Glenn's gonna be, and he keeps trying to tell Sasha that's where Tyrese is gonna be,
Right.
and so they have some kind of. I might be blanking out. Why does Sasha not want to go to Terminus? Is it too good to be true?
I
Like, she
think
does
it's
say
too
that.
good to be true. I think she also keeps, I think part of it is that she in her head thinks Tyrese is dead, or maybe it would be proof that he actually was. I'm not sure. I have to say, for names of a place that people should be going to, Terminus sounds really scary to me. So it was always unclear to me why they would pick that kind of a name, because it's like kind of end of the line, right?
Well, yeah. I think that's yeah.
I know, but just saying. I think Sasha, that's part of it, is that if they go there and the people that they're hoping to see there aren't there, then that's the loss of that hope. Even though she keeps saying that Tyrese is gone.
Yeah. It's very interesting kind of the way that this plays out between Sasha and Bob, who are clearly
Throwing off the lovey
yeah,
vibes too. Yes.
they've definitely got some stuff happening. To the point where when Maggie like leaves them in the woods and goes off and is like, "Don't follow me. I'll take, or you don't have to put yourselves at risk. I'll go by myself or whatever." And so Sasha's like, "Let's just find a house and hole up, and we can start over." And Bob's obviously into her, right? They're into each other, but he is gonna make the decision like, "Nope, not gonna do that. I'm gonna keep looking for Maggie because she needs help."
Yep.
So clearly, too good to be on the show.
Yep.
And he even like seals the deal with her, leans in, he's like, I'm gonna try something, give her a smooch, and then he's like, okay, bye.
Yeah, I know. It was super strange, right?
I mean, maybe because he's just such an optimist. He's like, well, this isn't goodbye forever. This is just, I'm gonna let you know that we could have a date later because we're totally both not gonna die in the next 5 minutes.
Maybe.
Too much optimism in Bob.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
But we do get a huge payoff in this episode with the Sasha Maggie ice cream truck fight.
That was really weird.
Why do you think it's weird?
Just the whole Maggie line in the Walker corpses was really strange.
Yeah, it's. I guess in retrospect, you're like, was she hiding or was she just taking a nap?
No, I think she was hiding. It was just really weird. Like, of all places to hide so much in the open. I don't know. Like it just seemed a little weird to me. And obviously
Nope.
that's what she was doing with the intestines and all that crap, like doing the whole masking thing that Glenn and Rick did so famously in the first season. But then Sasha has to ruin it by that big window dropping out.
Well, who could have known that that window was just going to pop right out of the frame? That's nuts.
I know.
Um, so, shoes. What was I going to say? Well,
But you like the fight scene.
I did really enjoy the fight scene, mostly because Maggie decapitates a bunch of walkers with a no parking
I
sign.
know that was pretty amazing. That was one of the best highlight fights of the season, I think.
Yeah,
The no
for sure.
parking sign was amazing.
It's just a nice little set piece with circled wagon style cars and ice cream truck. Got to wonder who put those there like that in the first place. Oh, the thing that I was going to bring up was this episode has a couple of weak links, which are silently waiting zombies. I think the show has set us up to believe that zombies are never really quiet. Sometimes they lie down and like go dormant, I guess, but for the most part, they're always moaning and groaning, right?
Yeah.
So, in two instances in this episode, Sasha's basically in their house. When she goes upstairs into that loft, there's zombies on the first floor, apparently, or somewhere in another part of that building, because they all start pouring out of a door once she runs to help Maggie. But she, what, didn't hear them? Even though it's like, and it's perfectly quiet when we're upstairs with
It
her. And
is,
she's like
and
having
then
her
suddenly
little
there's all
cry.
this noise. And you're right. I thought that too because I was just like, this doesn't make sense. And especially in a building like that, any noise is going to
Right?
echo.
A big old empty lofted building with like no furniture in it where noise travels.
Yeah,
Yeah, it doesn't make much sense. Oh, plus, like, just her footsteps would have set them off in that case, or whatever, you know. So that's to me, I was like, oh, come on, they're not. The show has led us to believe that they are not these like silent assassin zombies. They're loud and clumsy. And then the second time this happens is when I can totally see the zombies outside the front door of the morgue house,
yeah. And Daryl wouldn't be that dumb.
and they're just standing there silently too, apparently. And they only start screaming at him once he opens the door. And so I was just a little bit peeved that those two like breaks from, yeah, because Daryl would never, he checked the first time the dog barked. Why wouldn't he, you know, whatever. It's
Well, and I mean,
little things
I
that
think
go
what they
on.
were trying to do there is that his defenses are down because of the things I was just talking about earlier. That
Right.
he
Yeah.
let Beth like soften him up a little bit, and that's it then became sloppy. And I think that's what they were going for there. But I also agree with you because first of all, I just don't believe that he would not check ever. And this is one. I mean, this is one of the things that I get very frustrated with overall with The Walking Dead, is that they do things with certain characters that they force certain characteristics into them at points just because it's convenient for whatever story arc they're telling, when it's totally against everything you've been shown about this character
Yeah.
and for no apparent reason, right? So that and in this case, it also shows you, as you were saying, that the things that we know about the walkers in this universe suddenly are no longer true because it's convenient and we want whatever's going to happen here to happen. So it's real. I find it to be really frustrating and annoying, and I think that there could have been a better way to do it.
Yeah. I mean, if they want us to think that zombies are quiet, quiet, then they have to stop doing their whole like listening at the front door of a house and then
Right.
being like, well, if there's one in there, they're being really quiet or not moving, whatever. Yeah. So enough said. The show can be annoying at times when it does change the rules on us, but and the bottom line is, I think we're still gonna like Daryl even though he did that dumb thing.
Well, yeah, and then so of course he runs out, tells Beth to run out back. He does some pretty awesome things in terms of.
He does.
I
He owns
do
some
like his
zombies.
skill in okay. I have this bunch of people following me. And at first you're like, oh, don't go down into the morgue room, and then he does really cool stuff with the little gurneys, and just blocks himself in to be able to give himself a corner to fight out of, which I really liked.
I didn't even try to keep count, but he killed like, I don't know, 8, 10. He killed a whole bunch.
And what I really enjoyed is that he kept pulling arrows out as he's walking by.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, because I was like, oh, he's out of crossbow bolts. That's not going to end well. But then he just retraces his steps and gets them all.
Yep.
It was a good action sequence for sure. I guess they had to come up with a way to get the zombies into the house, and that was just their easy, like least path of resistance method.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I think it's clear that whoever took Beth lured them there. Like, that was deliberate, I think.
Well, they wanted us to think that, but I don't believe that that's really the case.
Okay. Well, I'm not remembering exactly when they talk about this later on, but okay. All good.
Well, they certainly never refer to it. I mean, this is never cleared up.
Yeah, they don't. I didn't think
explicitly,
that they resolved
but
this.
yeah, later on, I forget the woman's name. But she's
Dawn.
like Dawn. Yeah, they were out on a patrol. There's no like reference of like they were out visiting one of our safe houses or anything like that. It was just out on a patrol and came across her and she was hurt. I feel like that's the only explanation we ever get.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
and then we get to
So
see Daryl running and running and running.
yeah, and I've seen an interview. I think he it might have been the same press junket where he talked about his favorite zombie kills because he's like, the worst day on set or something like that was when the director of this episode told him to go to a hill like a mile and a half away and just run towards the camera,
I know. And this was it,
which is why he
probably.
looks, which is why he looked so tired because it was like 100 degrees.
Yeah, I can imagine that. And this is the part that I was talking about. It felt very much like the visuals that we were seeing with Bob earlier, where he's all alone. Although he has a purpose that he's trying to track Beth.
Yeah, but by the time he's kneeling and staring at the floor, he doesn't really have much of one anymore.
Nope, nope. And then gets surrounded by the Marauders, which we knew were going to rear their ugly heads again.
Yeah, I guess we could have anticipated that, but I feel like it was still a pleasant surprise, or not a pleasant one necessarily. But yeah, the claimers show up. There's not that many of them. What was there, like
Oh,
five?
sorry. Are they the Claimers or the Marauders? They're the Claimers. Sorry.
They're the claimers.
So many
I
names,
thought
so
you,
many
yeah, you
groups.
were just marauders with a small m,
Nope.
because they also do seem to maraud things.
Yeah, nope, you're right. They are totally the Claimers. Led by Jeff Kober, who I've seen him in a lot of things. Like, he's got like a very distinct look, and he's a great character actor. So pretty.
Doesn't play a lot of good guys.
No, he's generally a bad guy.
Yeah.
But definitely cool to see him again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then it seems like Daryl is welcomed into the fold. No big deal.
Yeah, it's kind of weird how they welcome him to the fold, because you would think that they would have just taken him out, because they seem to want his vest and his weaponry, and then they just kind of give in, which seems odd, but okay.
Well, I think because he's able to punch.
Yes, I know, but still, you would think in this world and what we've seen of them before that they really wouldn't care. So
Maybe.
that was the only thing that kind of bugged me about that. But
But they lost the guy when Rick killed
True.
the bathroom dude, so maybe,
maybe they're looking to bulk up their ranks. That's true.
yeah, maybe they think that seven's the lucky number or whatever, however many there are of them. So, and then the other storyline ends with Bob, Sasha, and Maggie all smiling as they walk down the train tracks
And
again,
hugging each
basically.
other. There's a platonic hug between Bob and Maggie, and then a not so platonic hug between Bob and Sasha. So,
Yeah,
but they all seem pretty happy about it.
so happy this trio, and then we actually end the total episode with Glenn looking at a Terminus sign and going like, "Whoa!"
Yep.
And so I think that's everybody. Mm-hmm. Of course, Glenn is supposed to be with like 5 people, so it's a little weird that it's just him.
Yeah,
but
it is
I
kind of
guess,
odd.
they couldn't bring the whole cast into this episode; too expensive.
True. Are you ready to talk about the next one?
The Grove. It's the creepiest intro scene, cold open ever. The slow motion girl dancing with the zombie in the backyard while the kettle is boiling and there's like old timey music playing.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's that. This is the Lizzy, Mika, Carol, Tyrese, Judith episode. I think that's the entire cast, and Griselda Gunderson makes an appearance.
Yep.
We basically just, they're heading to Terminus, but they take a little breather at this idyllic looking house surrounded by what are they, almond, no, they said what kind of
Pecan.
trees they were, pecan trees, and there's deer grazing there. And we essentially just play through the conclusion of the Lizzy ain't right in the head storyline.
Right. And also unveiling some secrets that everybody's keeping from each other, the secrets that Carol has been keeping from Tyrese, and then
Yeah.
the suspicions and the knowledge that Tyrese has about Lizzy that he had not been sharing. So, you know, there and clearly the stuff going on with Mika and Lizzy is another layer to that. So, despite the idyllic setting, there's a lot going on with this group of people right now. And there is, because of the events that happen in this episode, there's a transitioning of what happens with some of the characters that is interesting.
Yeah, this is when we were talking earlier on. I think that the stuff that happens in this episode, the way it ends with Carol and Tyrese having that conversation, is certainly referred to and plays into where Carol's character is right now in the TV show in season 6, at the end of season 6.
Definitely.
Because she is having some problems, or she certainly feels guilty about the human lives that she's had to take, even as throughout this episode she's telling Mika, yeah, you got to kill people, and Mika's just like, nope, not gonna do it. And it's a real bummer to me that Mika can't stick around on the show. I guess, she's such a huge liability, no bigger than Judith, but
well, when this whole thing started to play out, I didn't think it was going to go where it went. I know they'd been playing with some things with Lizzy, with the rats and the rabbits and the almost smothering of Judith and that kind of thing. What I was thinking was actually going to happen was the opposite of what happened. I thought they were going to do something more with the Mika character and have her
have her put Lizzy down because she was a liability,
or that she was going to put Lizzy down because Lizzy suddenly became a threat to her, and just had to defend herself. And I really thought that's where they were going, and it was not surprising where they went. I guess maybe I was more hopeful that that's where they were going to take the episode, because it just is it's pretty awful where it does end up.
Yeah. It's pretty bleak. The only ray of sunshine is Judith.
That didn't get hurt. Yeah.
Of the 3 wards that Tyrese has, from what is it? The episode that we just put up. When that episode starts, he's got 3 kids, right? Carol's not even there yet, and now 2 of them are gone by the end of this episode. And it's so chilling. I know we're pretty much just talking about the end of this episode, because there's a lot of, I don't know, just character development in the beginning and the middle. But it's so chilling when Lizzie's like, oh yeah, she's killed her sister. And I don't know that plays into the psychology of a psychopath. If they wouldn't mind killing their family. I guess people kill their families. Psychos kill their families sometimes. But she kills her sister, and then she's like, she says that she was about to kill Judith. When Tyrese and Carol walk up.
Well, she also doesn't really believe that she's killing, because she thinks that the walkers are just something else. There's something different, but there's something not to be feared. So in some ways, I don't think she views it as killing Mika. I think she just views it as trying to push her philosophy forth on to Carol and Tyrese, as misguided as that might be.
She's a loony.
Yeah. So I guess one of the things that it's just one of those things with these when we're talking about characters and what they do and how they decide to act. Lizzy is showing so much bizarre behavior. I still find it very difficult to believe. Maybe Tyrese wouldn't necessarily feel this way, but maybe not. I don't know. He knows different dark things about Lizzy that Carol doesn't. But even Carol has witnessed within this episode, and before the crazy incident happens, she witnesses super disturbing behavior from Lizzy. And I find it very hard to believe that they would leave Judith and Mika alone with her.
Well, they do that several times.
Right, and it just, to me, it doesn't add up.
What do you think that Tyrese knows about Lizzy?
He knows that he knows that she was feeding the rats the walkers.
He says that at the end because he asked her after she killed her sister.
Oh, okay. I guess I didn't understand that. I thought she had revealed that somewhere on their trek. Sorry.
I don't think he had no idea, but I think Carol after the tag in the backyard scene, and she's screaming at Carol, like, how would you like it if I killed you? That whole scene.
Mm-hmm.
I think Carol's face is essentially saying, I should kill this girl right now. And
Yeah.
then she shakes her head like, no, I'm not going to do it. So I think she is like 75% convinced that Lizzy is a total threat and should be eliminated even by that point. So it's still very difficult for her, obviously, to pull the trigger even after she does what she does.
Well, it is, but again, would you think that they would leave? Especially maybe Lizzy could be left alone with Mika because they kind of view Mika as like a caretaker, so maybe that would have happened anyway. And then Mika and Lizzy hang out together a lot. Mika is the one that's like, "Wow, Lizzy, you are totally nutso," when she catches her trying to feed the mouse to the walker on
Mm-hmm.
the tracks. Um, but I still I don't know that they would leave Judith with her. I just don't see it.
Yeah.
So anyway, that just irked me, and it irked me again watching this because I thought of it at the same time. I'm like, Carol, you've just seen this crazy ass kid playing tag with a walker and being upset when you killed it. This is not somebody
Yeah.
who should be left unattended.
No, you're right. That
So
they
anyway,
should have known this. And they have this like long kind of idle conversation out in the woods before they go back and realize what Lizzy has done. And yeah, it doesn't see. I agree. Like if I was in their shoes, I would have a really bad feeling about leaving them alone, and so I probably wouldn't ever leave them alone for that long. One other time they leave them alone in this episode, a walker shows up and they can barely. I mean, Mika puts it down, but it takes 3 bullets and there's a lot of screaming, and it doesn't seem like a good thing. All
also
the shooting they've been
the
doing
also
here.
the burned zombies are terrifying, but look really awesome.
Yeah.
You didn't like them?
That scene, there's only like 8 of them. I feel like Tyrese, maybe he's hurt, but he could probably just kill all of those guys with
Yeah,
a hammer.
I know he could, but still, they
They set up that whole firing line. It just seems like, oh, you like this grove? Stop shooting your guns.
right.
If you want to stay here,
Be
you have to
quiet.
stop, whatever.
Um, and I should point out that this episode got a huge amount of criticism with the fact that first of all they have Lizzy killing Mika, but also that then Carol decides to kill Lizzy as a reaction because she's a liability and there's no making her right again.
Criticism from whom?
Every people were just outraged that they would do this with children on this show.
I mean, both of their deaths were off screen.
Right. And I think it was still effective, but I think it was just something that set off a lot of negativity toward the show. I just was curious what you thought about it.
Yeah, clearly it was really a rough one. If they ever killed Judith,
Yeah,
that's going to be
that would
an
just
insanely difficult thing to stomach, and I don't know that the show could survive necessarily. Maybe it would because they'll just, I mean, they already kind of alluded to her potential demise earlier this in season 4, right? Like a car seat full of blood. And they've basically shown that other children have either been turned into zombies or been killed.
well,
So,
right, of course, Carol's daughter and that whole thing.
yeah, but
And I think people who actually like fans of the show are totally fine with this because Lizzie's super creepy. I think it's people that maybe just how that kind of thing happens. But
there's also it's a parallel to a storyline in the book where one of the children in their group is a serial killer and he's killed, I think, his brother
yeah,
potentially, and is actually Carl who
kills the
kills
kid. Yeah.
the serial killer kid, yeah, or the psycho kid. This episode, by the way, was written by Scott Gimple and directed by Michael Satrazemis and had an audience of 12.8 million. But yeah, super dark. Look at the flowers. Kind of entered all of our lexicons as what you tell people right before you have to shoot them in the head. And Carol has to admit to Tyrese after this that she killed Karen and David, and he forgives her for it. But she is basically ready for him to shoot her because she gives him her gun first, and she's like, "Do what you got to do." She feels really bad, which is the direct link to Carol that we're seeing in the
Right.
show right now.
Right. And Tyrese, I mean, I did like this interaction between them when she confesses, and he has a very physical reaction where he's like kind of gripping his gun, and Carol's just like, "Oh, just do what you have to do," and he just manages to control himself and says, "Look, I know you must feel bad about it, and we got to move on from this." And they do, and then they move on from the Grove, but it's a really cool little reveal there between them.
Mm-hmm.
So I do feel like some of this episode was a bit over the top, for the reasons that we were discussing earlier, and some of it was not fully believable, but it does set up Carol for pretty much everything we see happens to her and her character through the 6th season.
Yeah, we know that she's capable of hardcore, cold-blooded killer stuff. When she's faced with Lizzy right after she's killed her sister, and she's able to be like, "Oh, I'm not mad about this. We just want you to put your gun down, and then I will tie up Mika. So when she turns into a zombie, it'll be fine."
Mm-hmm.
She puts this face on it and then like collapses afterwards. But this is also a trick that she has become
A pretty good
very
actor.
adept at. Yeah, very adept at putting on those like on the spot performances
Yep.
for people.
Little false faces that we see further on, and she's very good at it.
And then there's a weird voiceover, and then the Carol and Tyrese walk back onto the train tracks, and it's really hard to tell where Judith is.
It is at first. You know what? At first, I was like, "Where is she? Did they do something?"
Right? I definitely remember ending this the first time I watched. I was like, "Oh my god, did they just kill Judith?"
I
And then
thought
they
the
leave her
same thing.
behind.
Yep, but Tyrese is carrying her. But he
She's in like a papoose.
yep,
Yeah.
a little papoose, but it's clearly not actually a child because there's really no weight there. So
Well, you can't have babies on screen very much. It's very difficult.
yeah, I know. But anyway,
Anyways.
you know. But that leads us to the end of this. Anything else? Any other observations?
For this episode, no. But for episode 15 and 16, which are the last two episodes of the season, they are entitled Us and A. And the audience really climbs up to a culmination or a climactic audience of 15.6 million at the for the season finale.
Yep.
So we will be covering those next time.
Yep. And
These are some heavy. I mean, the first one's, like I said, pretty light because of the whole Bob Smiley thing, but then Beth gets abducted, so that kind of evens it out.
yeah, but I
this
think they
next-
kind of
the
had to
Grove's-
balance it because of all the
Yeah.
darkness in the Grove episode.
It's super dark. So at least I'm glad that we reviewed these two together, because otherwise it would be like, oh, I'm so sad.
Yeah, I know. But if any of you have something to say about these episodes, would love to hear it. Observations, what you think. Reach out to us on Twitter, Reanimated PCast. Go ahead.
That's right. And then our website is reanimatedpodcast.com, and you can Gmail us at reanimatedpodcast@gmail.com.
Great.
Send us a Gmail.
A
guys.
Gmail.
That's not
A
thing.
Gmail.
It's not a thing.
But yeah, and I'm looking forward to wrapping up these next two episodes. But did you want to say anything about the season finale or no?
Oh,
Of 6.
well, you sent me a message right after you watched it, which I hadn't seen it yet, but it's okay. I figured I knew it was going to be coming down the pipe. I had a lot of problems with the season finale.
Yeah, I think a lot of people did.
Mostly my problem is that, and I already kind of expressed this to you, I think, an operation of this scope, of this like series of ambushes that the Saviors pull, would have been difficult by a modern organization under normal circumstances. Like, Delta Force would have a hard time doing that series of complex ambushes and land moving and tree cutting and then finding people in the dark without night vision. Mm-hmm. It's super far-fetched.
Yep.
But is it Jeffrey Dean Morgan? Harry Dean Morgan?
I think it's Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
Jeffrey Dean Morgan. Big fan of his work. Not only is he Batman's dad in Batman vs. Superman, he was long-standing character. Well, not long-standing, but he was a major character on Grey's Anatomy and other
Can't
shows.
say I've ever watched that.
Well, you're missing out. No, he's been great in a lot of stuff, and I'm just like that he's on the show, and he, he's got the charm and charisma that a Negan needs to have.
He was
I
also in
think he's
Watchmen. I do know him from that.
that's right.
And
He
he
was
was
the
also
comedian.
in Supernatural.
The comedian's a great kind of example to be a Negan surrogate because he was kind of like a
Anti-hero guy.
anti-hero for sure. I mean, Negan's not even supposed to be an anti-hero,
That's
but
true.
either way. So looking forward to seeing how that plays out. We're basically reaching the part of the book that I have not read past. I'm going to be in unknown territory pretty soon. I don't know about you.
I am. It's not unknown, but I haven't read it in so long that I think I probably would need a refresher to remind myself of what is actually happening. Although I did
Yeah,
remember the Negan character and was kind of expecting his arrival.
right. I mean, with all we're all Negan, we are Spartacus stuff that was happening in the last few episodes, I'd basically persuaded myself that there wasn't going to be a Negan, um, because how could there possibly be this many saviors? Honestly, was the thing I was thinking. They kept killing more and more and more and more saviors. I was like, well, they must have killed them all by now.
Right.
Um, but then actually Talking Dead kind of spoiled that for me because Chris Hardwick was like, well, we know who's going to be playing Negan. It's, Jeffrey D. Morgan. It's well established. I'm like, fuck, man, I didn't know that. I didn't know there was going to be a Negan. Oh, well. Yeah. So, yeah, very kind of interested. I mean, I don't know. I'm interested to see how this goes. Obviously, I had a bunch of problems as we've talked about during the course of this season. Had some issues with season 6, and we will talk about those in great detail when we get to that part of the review in 2025.
Yep. So, so nice. All right. Well, I hope everybody has a great rest of the weekend.
And an enjoyable premiere of Fear the Walking Dead, if that's your thing.
Indeed. Next
And I
time.
think, isn't Game of Thrones starting soon or
That is
now?
starting very soon.
So, whoa, TV land.
Yep.
Let's go.
Yep.
All right. So join us again next time when AJ and I are discussing season 4, episodes 15 and 16. I think we might even get to
I
Terminus.
think we might.
We might even get to Terminus. So hooray
Hurrah.
and goodbye.
Bye. Ciao.